Rise forever till ties sever, shine together, rule wherever. Clock ticking now or never. My worst behavior, beats who's unique, the flavor. Foes turn flame, then vapor. Rise forever till ties sever, shine together, rule wherever. Clock ticking now or never. My worst behavior, beats who's unique, the flavor. Foes turn flame, then vapor.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Jarell's Journal. I appreciate you guys tuning in. We're going to start it again because I think it's recorded late. What's going on, y'all? Welcome back to another episode of Jarell's Journal. I'm the host, Jarell. I appreciate you guys tuning in. Today, I got a very, very special guest on, Mr. Cory Wilson, fellow Air Force brethren, you know what I'm saying? We've been through some good times, some bad times, and I'm honored to have him on as a guest, and I felt like he is the perfect person to talk about today's subject, with this coping with mental health struggles post-service. Many of us veterans struggle with that. It is a real thing. There's been high suicide rates among veterans and whatnot. And we want to talk about some of the struggles that happen, with our fellow veterans, some of the things that we go through, and how we deal with it. So, Mr. Cory, appreciate you joining.
Good coach. I appreciate you having me. Man. It's an honor. So I've been enjoying watching this thing you've been doing grow. So I'm just excited to be a part of it. So truly, thank you, man.
I appreciate it. You always bring some words of wisdom.
I don't know about all that, but I always got something to say. That's for sure.
So let's get right in it then.
Let's do it.
Transitioning out the military, how was that for you? What was your experience like?
So looking back now, I've been out about right at 5 years. Last month was my 5-year mark of being out. At first, it was a sense of freedom. And I was just like, yes, I'm out. I can do what I want. Let's roll. However, the first probably 2 or 3 years, I neglected the fact that I was in transition. And going from a military career to a civilian life is totally opposite, And so even before I got out, I retrained into a desk job because I was like, that'll be a good stepping stone on the way out. So I thought I was good. It's been a roller coaster, to say the least. And it's not been until, I would say, probably the last 6 months or so that I've started to kind of feel like I'm on the right path and kind of applying the things that I was teaching other people to do. I was a veteran benefits advisor in Hawaii for a couple of years. And while I was there, I was working with transitioning veterans from all branches. And a lot of the stuff I was, counseling them on and working with them on, I wasn't applying to myself because I thought I'm good. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't until, I started hitting those pits, and each pit got a little lower and a little darker and a little harder. And I'm thankful because I'm here and I'm standing 10 toes down now, but it's been a wild ride for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah, you definitely fought through that thing, still fighting through it, and toughening it out. I've talked about my experience a few times before, to where when I got out, I had a job lined up, and got the job. 3 weeks after getting that job, I lose my job. So imagine that type of effect. You getting out, you already know what type of pay cut you're going to be getting, but you've done your steps in your job to secure something, so at least you have money coming in, and then to have it cut off. Our insurance, my insurance gone. So my wife at the time was still in, but all that left for me, I have to get all that, to pay for all that. And now I got to figure out another job, which I did HVAC, and a lot of the civilian, HVAC companies, they kind of look at it as experience because, okay, you did HVAC in the military, cool. They don't look at it as the same as if I had So I started off civilian working there because they figured we're not getting that much experience, not getting that much work because we're military. We got to train, we got to do all this other stuff. So that was a struggle. That was a major struggle, and it kind of, started something that happened to when into the divorce and all that. I've said the story, but that definitely played a major effect on my mental as well, because that was, as soon as I got out, it's survival mode.
Absolutely. Because you go, like you said, everything's set. You know when you're getting paid, you know how much you're getting paid. You know that you can go to the doctor and that is covered. You can do this and whatever. Everything is laid out. Everything's taken care of. And then you get out and yeah, you have that sense of freedom. But with that freedom comes a lot of hassle, as in now I've got to make enough money to not only match what I was making, but then enough to get insurance. And then, like you have children and, at the time still had young, like they were smaller then. So, daycare, all sorts of stuff like that kind of thing that a lot of people don't think about. And it's stuff that they don't tell you when you're transitioning. The transition assistance program that the military has, although it is a federally mandated program, there's not a lot of information in there to help you actually transition. It's just, hey, here's some benefits that are available to you. All right, good luck. And that's it.
Now, how much of, you spoke on it a little bit, but how much of working there and getting that experience and talking to the other fellow veterans impact your mental health, whether it was good and bad? And how long did it take for you to get to where you're at now?
I would say it's still a daily struggle, a daily battle. I still, from time to time, struggle with the suicidality. Like I had a couple failed attempts, several years back while I was still in the military and as I was transitioning out. And there was a guy he was actually kind of mentoring me as I was going through through my struggles transitioning. A really good friend of mine, like we were from the same hometown, both went to the Air Force. He was a few years older than I was, but during the time I had an attempt, he actually committed suicide right after he told me, hey, I'm good. Don't worry. Like I'm in a good spot now. Like I'm good. And I was like, all right, bet, I was actually walking into the gym when we talked. He was like, I'm good. And he's like, just call me when you get done at the gym. Called him back, no answer. And I found out the next day why he didn't answer. So seeing a lot of stuff like that, kind of opened my eyes that I'm not as okay as I say I am. I was always very good at wearing a mask and pretending like I was okay. Like I'm an actor. So that's what I naturally did, was I would act like I'm okay. And I would put on this facade of that, I'm good. I can't be touched. And, when you do that, you got a lot of demons you got to deal with.
Absolutely. That's tough and unfortunate to hear that, and to know that even when I was in Guam, there was a few emergencies and suicide attempts that was happening there while I was there active duty. So, and it was just happening right in the dorms.
Yeah.
And it's just, it's scary to see that, because it's hard. It's hard to gauge that, and it's a fine line.
It truly is. And within the military, and I can't speak on anything from the last 5 years since I've been out on how the military is now.
Mm-hmm.
But at the time, mental health was not, you know what I mean? Like it was frowned upon. You go to mental health and you're kind of, depending on your career field, you're shunned from the village. They find out you're going to mental health, like this dude's crazy, or whatever the case may be. Not thinking, well, he may have trauma from some deployments or from whatever else. And it's just, no, it gets to the point where like you need help. And I remember going to, whenever you and I were stationed at Shaw together, because you and I went to Africa together and we came back, and I tried to go to mental health after that. And they were like, oh, well, you've got orders to PCS in 6 months. Just wait till you get there. That's what I was told. They told me to wait it out for 6 months. And during that time actually was one of my attempts. And I got to Minot And that was my next duty station. I got up there, started trying to go get some help, towards the end of my career as I was transitioning out. And it was just, they never really looked for the root cause. It was just, hey, tell us how you feel. And then, oh, try these meds, try these meds, try these meds. But most of the meds that they were trying to push had nothing to do with the actual diagnosis. And so it was almost like a guinea pig thing. And it was kind of weird. So I don't know how it is now, but that's how it was then, at least with my own personal experience. Since transitioning out, though, I will say the VA, as much as people want to knock the VA, and as many jokes as we got about the VA, I mean, they're one of the reasons I'm alive, and they're one of the reasons that I'm getting the help that I need, even with recent diagnoses of things that had been overlooked, and now being on medication that helps. And, there was always a stigmatism, like with medicine and that kind of thing. And it's like, I didn't want to take it because I was like, oh, it's going to make me weak. And if anything, I feel more clear-headed than I've ever been.
Mm-hmm.
And with that being said, being clear-headed, I feel like I'm able to rationally deal with the things that I've got going on inside my head now.
So was it that you were able to get help towards the tail end of the career, or did you have to wait until you actually got out to be able to get the help or start the process?
It started the process. I did get some help. I got help in the sense that it was at least annotated on my record.
Okay.
And with stuff being annotated on my record, when I went to the VA, they were really able to say, okay, now let's hone in on this and take care of it. And the same thing for my physical symptoms, right? So like I had a couple back surgeries, knee surgeries, and a lot of bangs and bruises in my shoulders, like broken bones, everything, man. Like you name it, I've been through it. And since getting out, it's, I've been taken care of, which has been nice. I'm very grateful for that.
Absolutely. No, that's great. That is great. So started the process, finally was able to get some help. Did the help teach you different coping mechanisms, or did you start developing on your own? Like, what was that for you?
So at first it was a mix. At first it was just self-medication, self-medicating and poor coping skills. So for me, it was a lot of substances. So, any kind of substance I could get my hands on, that's what I was using. Because I wanted to numb the pain. I wanted to escape reality. And of course, most of my career dealing with injuries, the military was just pushing heavy pain medication, like pushing narcotics and muscle relaxers on me. So like most of my career,
They have kilograms like Skittles.
right. So I mean, like, yeah, I'm eating pills like candy for almost a decade.
Yeah.
And so, I was using it for pain, obviously, but I was using it to like escape reality and that kind of thing. Cause like, I couldn't deal with the stuff in my head and I didn't want to live in there anymore. And so since getting out, I have learned healthier coping mechanisms. I've stopped isolating myself as much. And you can attest to this because you've seen it with me. Like when I was going through stuff, I would just shut people out completely. And it wasn't necessarily that I didn't want to hear what people had to say or anything like that. It was just, I don't feel worthy enough for help. And I don't think anybody else is going to understand. And I think there's so many people like that, just from other people I've talked to that are currently transitioning out. And they're like, nobody gets it. Nobody understands, and that pulls a lot of people into that suicide mentality or into the, I need to get on something. So.
Feel alone. And that's tough. I'm kind of I've done similar things to where that's kind of how I cope is that I need to be by myself. I mean, I sometimes talking it out is good for me, but not initially.
Right.
Initially, I have to remind myself that it's okay. Remember to take it a day at a time, and to always think positive and not stay in that negative space. Because before I used to stay in that negative space and stay in my head. And I'm naturally in my head, constantly thinking all the time. So I'm coming up with different scenarios, and that just makes it worse. So, I had to learn how to not do that, or to catch myself when I do that and start thinking more positive and, try to make sure that I'm able to calm down and calm my nerves. And if it gets to a certain point, then I will call somebody. You have to find a person or two or three that that you can call at any time, no matter what, for them to listen and for them to give you advice to how they feel that you can get better and not just tell you things that you want to hear. Because if you start talking to those people who only give you the answers that they think you want to hear and it's not really doing any help, then you need to let them go and find somebody who actually cares and actually want to see you do better, want to see you do good. And that's going to help you grow and mature, and you be able to learn different techniques. Do you agree or disagree?
Oh, 100% agree. It's that sense of community that we need. And we go from being in a military community, and depending on the branch, depending on the job that you're in, there may be a lot of camaraderie. And so, especially if you're going from a place where you've got a lot of camaraderie, and then you're getting out and you're in a place where you're just with civilians that don't get it, or whatever the case may be, you feel lost. And so it's so easy to get into that negative mindset, because you're like, you almost or depending on the person. Like for me, for example, like I became very bitter. Because I was like, nobody else gets this. Like nobody knows what I went through, and da 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 da. And I didn't really show it, but inside, and that bitterness, man, it eats you up. It eats you up, and it drives you away from community, and it drives you away from seeking camaraderie, because you just don't feel like you don't feel like anybody's going to get it, right? And even people that go seek counseling, for me, it took several years, like honestly, till recently, to find a counselor that I could talk to, because I was like, man, they just don't get it. Like they don't get it. They're just trying to talk. They want me to talk about my feelings and tell them about X, Y, and Z and all that. And, once you realize, you got to get to the root of it all, but it's like you said, you got to have people in your corner that'll hold the mirror up for you and say, hey, look, because I've been through what you've been through, or I can see your blind spot, right? Like you've had to do it to me. You've seen some of my blind spots and you've called me out. And I'm like, oh, okay. So it's just, you hold the mirror up and I'm like, oh, I got something on my face. Cool. Let's clean it up and let's move forward, and having that accountability is so, so key. And so whether it's friends, mentors, both people from, if you're, within your faith group, if you're, people from your church or whatever, somebody that can help be a level head,
Yeah. No, absolutely. It is absolutely needed. It is absolutely needed. So we talk about some coping skills that we do, that we go through. Talk about different effects. So let me ask you this: give me some advice, or give the people some advice on if they're dealing with some mental health issues, struggles, or whatnot, and they're getting ready to transition. What advice would you give those individuals?
I would say, if you're still in and you haven't already, get established with behavioral health, mental health. Get established, even if you don't want to. And the reason I say that is because as you transition out, it's going to be on your record. So when you go to the VA, they're going to be like, cool, let's continue that care here. And disability rate, like play into disability ratings, all that, that's another story. But having it annotated on your record is so key, because that's going to allow you to get continued help through the VA, because not everybody wants to pay out of pocket to go to a private counselor or private doctor, whatever. So I would say number one is if you're still in, get established. If you're already out and you're starting to transition, I would say seek help. Even if you think you're good, there's still probably some undealt with trauma that you swept under the rug and that you forgot about. And I'm speaking from experience. Like I was going through cognitive processing therapy. It's a very in-depth therapy. I like it and I hate it at the same time. The reason I hate it is because it forces you to face these demons head on that you've not dealt with. And it can be scary. It can even be hard on the people around you because it beats you down. But it's just like it's ripping a Band-Aid off, and it stings for a minute, but then you're like, thank God I can breathe now, And so as I was going through cognitive processing therapy, I was going through some therapy for some deployment-related traumas. And the doctor I was working with, she was like, that's not the root. That's not the root of this. She's like, I understand that that's traumatic, but it's worse because something else. So we just kept digging. And I had forgot about this until I was going through therapy because I had swept. I was so good. Like I said, I'm an actor, man. I was good at sweeping stuff under the rug and just keep on going because that's what we're told to do. Like being from the South and being in the military, you just sweep your problems under the rug and you keep going. It's not healthy, but that's what we're told to do. And so I had forgot that I had been sexually assaulted and molested for probably 4 or 5 years in my adolescence. Completely forgot about it. And so I was able to face that and deal with it. And it's like, how did I forget that? But it's a real thing. And so there's a lot of undealt with traumas that we deal with or that we need to deal with and we need to face in order to heal. And sometimes we just have to think we need to heal for the people around us, right? So, like for us with our kids, we need to deal with this stuff because generational trauma, generational curses, that stuff's real. And so if that stops with us, we don't pass it on to them. And so that was kind of my motivation to get help because I was like, my wife was watching me downfall. I was like, I'm not going to be alive for my kids if I keep this up. And it just got to the point where I was like, all right, I got to deal with it all. And so, yeah, I would, like I said, number one, if you're still in, start seeing somebody now. If you're out, please go see somebody. If you don't trust a doctor, if there's not somebody that you trust, you want to talk to, just like you were saying, reach out to a friend that gets it, or a mentor, or a pastor, or an aunt and uncle, whatever, somebody well trusted that's going to give it to you straight. That's not going to sugarcoat it and tell you what you want to hear. We don't need things that's going to tickle our ears. Like we need stuff like we need to get sharp, like iron sharpens iron. But you got to think, if you're clashing swords together, it's going to hurt. Sparks are going to fly, but eventually that sword's going to get sharper.
Good.
And so you got to be willing to take a few blows, baby.
No, that's good stuff, man. That's good stuff. And self-care is extremely important. And there's different ways that you do it. My self-care, I'm going to protect my peace at all times. This is what I've learned and developed through this whole process. And this is what I'm continuing to tweak. Make sure that I protect my peace at all costs. So if that means I need to take a day off from doing any type of thinking, that's what I'm going to do. Go watch TV, play the game, whatever. I'm just not going to think about any type of outside problems at all. I like bowling. It's another good one for me. Basketball, football, as long as I can do an activity that is taking my mind off of things. I need a break. I need to slow down and allow the day to reset because whatever problems, issues that I'm having, it's still going to be there the next day.
Yeah.
So some of the time, those type of things I like to do is I need a day of just to reset, leave me alone, and then I come back out. What activities or whatnot for self-care do you do, or would you recommend for those who just needs to start learning different tips and tricks to coping with whatever that they're dealing with?
So for me, I'm just now learning that self-care is okay, you know? And so that's still new. That part's still new to me because, being always in a like a legalistic environment or being fear-based, being driven by fear and not love. It was always, well, self-care is bad. Self-care is selfish and, because the word self and da 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 da. And so that really messed with my head. And so now I'm learning that, actually you were the one that kind of helped me with this or started helping me with this. And it's the fact that, like, if I'm not good, I mean, it comes down to putting my oxygen mask on the plane so I can help the person beside me. Because what good am I to them if I can't breathe? And so if I'm so in my head that I can't see straight, I can't see that other people need help around me. And so as I've started taking care of myself, I've been able to use my own experiences to help other people. But as far as my self-care, like I go to the gym. I don't do anything crazy. I just go move around, get some blood flowing, just getting that blood flowing just feels so good. I love being outside, being out in nature. Like, honestly, like I'll go out barefoot and go walk around. I pray while I walk. I change the music I listen to. I change the things I'm watching. For me, it was garbage in, garbage out, right? And so listening to the lyrics of a lot of the stuff that I was taking in, it was, it brought on a lot of self-hatred and it brought on a lot of bitterness and anger and rage. And doing that didn't help whatsoever, So with self-care, it's take in better stuff, take in better food, take in better beverages. If you're drinking alcohol 5 nights a week, maybe switch to juice or coconut water, or even with the music, like if you like rap, great. Like I love rap too. There's cleaner rap out there, like I don't need to listen to something that's going to be belittling women and all that kind of stuff because that changes how you see things too. I stepped away from a lot of things that I was a slave to in my mind, right? So like things that I felt like I had to do stuff, but I was always miserable and bitter because I was like, I'm forcing myself to do this stuff I don't like. And I'm like, why am I doing this? Right. So now I'm like, oh, okay. Like I've always loved to play basketball and do that. And I'm like, I stopped playing basketball for whatever reason. I stopped doing a lot of things I enjoyed. And I don't even know why. I don't even know why. I just got into a hole. You get inside your head, you get in this depressive state and you don't want to do anything. So like you said, man, like find hobbies, activities, read a book, like try new stuff. For me, I love to cook. So I like to cook. I grow my own veggies. I got a huge garden. So like I make my own hot sauces, my own barbecue sauces. Like I'm cooking all the time, grilling something up. For me, that's relaxing. For me, it's like, like it gives me a sense of creativity. So if you can find something where you can be creative, like create something, like I love to do woodwork and stuff. And I'll like big projects, little projects, whatever. Like the small project I just finished was that tomahawk that I showed you.
Yeah, no, that's dope.
Yeah, so I took a tomahawk for the kids, and so me being Cherokee and Shawnee, like I did, traditional artwork, traditional tribal all over that thing. It took a couple days to do it, but I created this thing that now I can pass down to my kids, or even now like working on some cornhole boards, just little things like that, as a sense of it's a little thing, but for me, it's getting myself back out there and doing something creative and making me feel accomplished in a sense. And another thing I would say before we go on to the next question is do stuff for other people. Like, that's where I'm starting to finally feel better, is where I'm taking myself out of the equation and using my experiences to pour into others, or using my resources that I've been blessed with in order to help others with their needs. And I'm not saying that as a toot my own horn thing, but I'm saying, like, if you haven't tried that and you're struggling, maybe try that. Try building other people up. It's better to give than receive.
Absolutely. That's beautiful, man. That's beautiful. We're gonna end on that note. This was really for you guys to understand that transitioning out the military is not just, it's a cakewalk. It is not. There is a lot of military members who are dealing with mental health illnesses. Some of them are trying to get help. Some of them don't even know that they're dealing with it. And to have that big change from military life to civilian life is huge, and it takes a huge impact on that veteran. And since the lifestyle changes often, it's kind of hard to adjust, and there's a lot more pressure added on to them because they can't move and do things like they were in the military. So it's okay to ask for help. Okay,
100%.
Yes,
100%.
it's okay to ask for help. It's okay to know and say that you're not okay, because the first thing is to
and that was the hardest. That was the hardest.
It's always going to be the hardest. You have to admit, there's a lot of people out there, living in ignorance because it's easier. They don't have to deal with the issue, the situation that's going on. They don't want to. It's too much pain.
Yeah,
it's not easy. The easy thing to do is cover it up, sweep it under the rug, like you were saying, and pretend that it's not there.
Yeah.
But it just makes it worse and worse. And this is coming from two individuals who dealt with that and are still dealing with that to this day. And our paths out the military is completely different, but yet still we have a connection to the things that we went through in our own way, and what are we doing to help change that and better ourselves. So I definitely appreciate you coming on. This was great, not only for the listeners but for myself. I feel like this is needed, and it's going to have to be continue to be talked about. There's people talking about it more and more, and we're just going to continue that. We're going to keep, flooding the social medias and the airwaves and whatnot. Check on your veterans. Check on your fellow veterans in the community. Made major sacrifices, big or small. It was definitely for the country, definitely for you guys, and for the family here. All we're trying to do is help out one another. That's what it is to be in the military. It's camaraderie, it's big family. So when we get out, we kind of expect that, and we don't get it, and that plays a major factor too. So I was almost about to start another 20-minute conversation, but we're going.
Hey, I'm with you. Hey, I'll roll with you, man. I'm in it with you, man. Let's go.
Know where I was going with that.
Yeah, I do.
So when you're gonna start that, we'll come back and speak on that more. But I appreciate you coming on. Do you have any last words?
Man, I appreciate it. Yeah, the one last thing I would say is, if just a number for you, like a phone number for you guys to remember, if you guys don't feel like you have anybody you can talk to, you don't feel like you have anybody that's going to understand, the suicide prevention hotline is 988. And they're always there 24/7. If you need to talk to somebody that is just an outside source, a third party, non-biased, call 988. The veteran crisis line is always there as well. Their number's online. I've used them myself in the past. So I would highly recommend them. And just self-examine, sit down, have a heart-to-heart with yourself, see what you need to work on. And, if you were in the military, you were trained to go to war, so you got to go to war against this too. So stay sharp and know that you're not going to battle alone.
Absolutely. And that goes for if you're not the individual that's going through it, but the buddy is. Still call those numbers for the buddy. But I appreciate it. Make sure y'all like, y'all subscribe, y'all share this to other veterans out there, first responders, all of that. Anybody who, put their life on the line or doing things to help out the community of the country, they need your help, they need your support, and they need to hear this information so they know that it's okay to get help and they're not going to be judged. So appreciate y'all. Love y'all. Until next time. That's it.
All
Peace.
right, y'all. Peace.